بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. واللعنة الدائمة الأبدية على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم وقوله الحق. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in the Holy Quran, and what He says is the truth. In the chapter of Fussilat, verse 53, Allah states, وَسَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ أَوَلَمْ يَكْفِ بِرَبِّكَ أَنَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ شَهِيدٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in this holy verse, He says, and we shall make them see our signs in the horizons and within themselves until it is made clear to them that He is the truth. Is it not sufficient for them that Allah witnesses all things? Amanna billah, sadaqallahu al-aliyyul azim. Brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The topic for tonight is an important topic. It is a topic that has left many confused and bewildered over the course of history. Whether from the early age of adolescence to adulthood, or from the time that we're children to the time that we become working professionals or even scholars. A topic that keeps us wondering at all times. It is a topic that if I don't have the answer for, the rest of my life will not be the same. And therefore, it is important for us to deal with this question. The question of the existence of God is one that is not exclusive only to those who follow Islam, but rather it is one that is part of the human condition again. And so, it becomes important for us to answer this question using the intellect, using our rationality. For yes, we can blindly accept that Allah exists because our parents told us that He exists. But that's only enough for us until we take our first philosophy class in college. Right? And therefore, it's important that before our kids reach college age, that what we do is either teach them the answer to this question, or that we educate them by putting them in schools so that they can get the answer to this question. Today we shall answer this question. And we won't use the Holy Quran. We will only use our intellect. Now, if you recall in the very first lecture that we gave in this month of Ramadan, we mentioned an important narration in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He first created the intellect, He looked at it and admired it after giving it its ability to rationalize. He said to it, go forward, and it went forward. He said to it, turn back, and it turned back, as though admiring it. And then He says, وَعِزَّتِي وَجَلَالِي إِنِّي مَا خَلَقْتُ خَلْقًا أَعَزُّ عَلَيْهِ أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِنْهُ. Surely I have not created the creature that is more beloved to me than you. وَمَا أَكْمَلْتُكَ إِلَّا فِي مَنْ أُحِبُّ. And neither will I have completed you except in those who are beloved to me, those whom I love. And then Allah continues to say, He says, إِيَّاكَ آمُرُ وَإِيَّاكَ أَنْهَى وَإِيَّاكَ وَعَاقِبْ وَإِيَّاكَ أُثِيبُ. Allah says, it is you that I command, it is you that I forbid, and it is you that I punish, and it is you that I reward. Therefore, in Islam, the intellect is king. It is the most important faculty that we have to use. It is not to be set aside at all. Accepting things just because of blind faith is not the Islamic way of doing things. If a Muslim comes to you and you ask them a question and they say to you, just accept blindly, know that they have not gone through the process of rationalizing the answer to that question. Therefore, tonight, what we'll do is we'll go through the intellectual proofs of Allah's existence. After we prove Allah's existence, what we will attempt to do then is determine what is the most important characteristic that this creator of all things must possess. And then what are the effects of that? And finally, what I'd like to deal with is some of the challenges that may be posed to these intellectual arguments. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Of course, over the course of time, many empirical philosophers have sought to disprove Allah's existence. Why? Because as they used their empirical methodologies, they found that they reached a standstill because everything that they did depended on a physical proof. Now the contention is that once I reach a point where there is no more physical proof, that whatever metaphysics there is beyond that, it's not something that I can rationalize or understand. I'll explain to you what I mean as I go through this proof. The first proof is an important one. Why? Because it employs empirical methodologies to prove the existence of the Creator. What do I mean by empirical methodologies? You know, an empiricist, what they do, such as an individual like Descartes, for example, a well-known mathematician and chemist and physicist, a great scientist over the course of human history. What he did was he went through all of the scientific methods that he could until he reached a point where he said, you know what, I can't figure out who created these elements. So other scientists, when they reach the standstill, they stop there. Even common ones that we know of today, and we'll discuss them at the end, inshallah, of the lecture. The first proof is called the proof of organization. In Arabic, it's known as Burhan al-Nazm. Now I'm going to pose to you a series of questions, and I want you to take notes, okay? This is very important. If you're a parent, you're going to want to teach these to your kids, these proofs. This is a very simple proof. You can use on a child, you can use on an adolescent, you can use on a teenager, you can use on a college student, you can use on a professional, a professor, a doctor. It's just what examples you use. You have to fashion the examples in a manner that is palatable to the other person. So let's get started. Now, if I take an orange and I cut it in half, and you look at it, does it look organized and symmetrical to you? You can answer me. Yes. If I cut an onion in half and you look at it, as you see its beautiful layers and how symmetrical they are, does it look organized to you? You can answer. Yes. If you look at a flower like a daisy from the top, does it look symmetrical and organized to you? Now notice we're using empirical methodology. We're taking real-world examples, just like scientists, and we're comparing, okay? What are we comparing? We're saying, does this look organized? And the answer so far has been yes, correct? Now, what if I tell you, if you look under a microscope, and you look at the cells, do they look organized to you? The answer is yes. Very good. What about how the sun rises, where it rises from and where it sets? Is that organized? Does that happen every day, all the time, from the same spot, every day, or not? Is that an organized way of doing things, or no? So we would say then the solar system, the sunrise and the sunset, is organized. Do you agree? Good. What about the solar system? The orbiting of the planets around the sun. Is that organized to you? You can answer. Yes. Very good. So far, based on these empirical examples that we've taken, we can safely conclude and agree upon the fact that this world, based on the examples that I gave you, is organized. Do you agree? Yes? Good. So let's set that aside. Now I'm going to ask you more questions. Who organizes your room? Very good, you do. Now the answer is going to be your mother. How many people say your mother? How many people say your wife? How many people say your sister? How many people say your brother if you pay them? Right? The idea is that someone organizes your room, right? What about a laboratory? Who organizes the laboratory? Does anybody know? A lab tech maybe? Yes? You agree? Okay, who organizes a doctor's office? Who? Secretary, right. Who organizes a surgeon's tools before they go into surgery? A nurse, exactly. Who organizes the center? The administration, very good. So can we safely agree that in order for something to be organized, it must have an organizer? Do you agree? Yes? Very good. So far we've agreed, let's review, on the fact that the world is organized, based on the examples I gave you. That's one. And two, that everything that is organized has a creator of its organization. Correct? Now, if we put these two together, what we'll find is, the first one is our minor premise, then our major premise. The world is organized. Everything that is organized has a creator of its organization. Therefore, we can conclude that the world has a creator of its organization. Do you agree? Very good. So you just proved that the world has a creator of its organization. I didn't know that that question was so simple to answer. Right? Okay, so now what? Now that I've proven that the creator exists, now what? Now I start wondering, well, if the creator exists, what does that imply? If I now start looking deep within myself, especially in these days of fasting, when I feel a hunger and when I feel a thirst, right? What state am I in? What do I feel? Do I feel strength or do I feel weakness? Brother Alex, I feel? Okay, mind me not to ask you next time. No, just kidding. Just kidding. So, does hunger, thirst, make you feel weak inside or not, Brother Alex? Yes, it does. Now, the fact that I feel weak makes me think about something, and that's, my goodness, I am in need, right? I need food. I need water. I need to be happy. I need shelter over my head, right? I'm so limited. I'm limited by my strength. I'm limited by my vision. I'm limited by my speed. I'm limited, right? The simplest way to figure out that you're limited is once you realize that if for a day or two you don't go to the bathroom, what will happen to your state? Because you're so limited and weak. So you ask yourself, well, if I'm not the creator, because I'm so weak and limited, right? And my knowledge is limited, then I'm going to start looking outside of myself, right? I'll look towards my parents first and foremost, because they're a source of power, because they brought me into existence. So what do I figure out? I say, well, would they have enough knowledge to know how to create this world? So I compare them to myself. I say, well, but hang on. They also need to go to the bathroom. They also need to be happy. They also need food. They also need shelter. They also need liquids. And so I conclude they too are limited. Do you agree with me so far? Now I look beyond my parents. I look at the president of a country, the most powerful man in that land. And I ask myself, do they need food? Do they need happiness? Do they need shelter? Do they need wealth? And the answer is, yes, of course they do, which means they're limited. Well, what about land masses? They're limited by what? By bodies of water. What about mountains? They're limited by their height and their width. Okay, let me look beyond my world, beyond the earth. And I see the solar system, and I find that the solar system is limited. Every planet is limited by its orbit. So I'll say, okay, everything around me is limited. So what could have created this universe? So I start thinking about things that are created. I think of an engineer. How many engineers do we have here? How many people want to study engineering? Awesome. Now I ask you, is an engineer inside the engine that they designed when they designed it? You can answer that question. No. Let me ask you a simpler question. Is a baker inside the cookie that they bake when they bake it? No. You can tell we just came out of the spot, right? We're thinking of cookies. Right? Is a cook inside the food that they cook when they cook it? No. So if that's the case, just by simple deduction, if I extrapolate and I think about this entire universe, and I know that it's limited by space and time, at the very least, I think to myself, well, if the creator of something isn't inside that thing that they create when they create it, then the creator of the limited system cannot be what? Inside the system when it's created, which means that he's what? Limited or unlimited? He's what?
Unlimited.
Unlimited. Exactly. Interesting. Now, if he's unlimited, is he everywhere?
Yes.
Yes, he is. If he's unlimited, does that mean that he has a beginning and an end?
No.
If he's unlimited, does he have a deficiency? No. If he's unlimited, does that not mean that he's all perfect? Correct? Does that not mean that he's infinite in his knowledge? Because he had to have so much knowledge that would allow him to create the universe, to make sure that it ran perfectly, and to sustain that universe. Correct? So his knowledge would have to be infinite, and therefore his wisdom would have to be infinite. Now, if he's all perfect, and he has no deficiencies, and he has no beginning and an end, what does that imply? Now, if I look within myself again, and I realize that I myself, the limited human being, must have a beginning and an end, right? I've seen humans before me. They're brought to this world, and then they die. So they have a beginning and an end, right? I know that I have parameters, right? Well-defined parameters. The size of my hand, the size of my head, right? The size of my feet, correct? Now, I know that things that are within this limited system are in a state of change, are they not? At the very least, there's a change in time, and therefore their state at point A in time is different than their state at point B in time, at the very least with respect to time, correct? Yes or no? Yes. Therefore, things that are limited are always in a state of change. So what about if something is unlimited? Is it changing, I ask you?
No.
No. What's your name, brother? What's your name? Hadi. So if something then is unlimited, then he is unchanging. And if he's unchanging, he doesn't have a beginning and an end. Correct? That means he always existed and will always exist. يا حيا قبل كل حي ويا حيا بعد كل حي ويا حيا حين لا حي. O he who exists before all things and after all things, and when no existence exists, he will always exist. So not only did we answer the question of does Allah exist, we proved that Allah exists, correct? Yes or no? Yes, very good. We also proved that because Allah exists, we have to figure out what is the most important characteristic that He possesses. And we figured out that that's the fact that He is unlimited, correct? And that if He is unlimited, then He's all perfect, He's all wise, He's all knowing, He is indeficient, He has no deficiencies whatsoever. Therefore, He can do no wrong, correct? And also, because He's unlimited, He's unchanging, which means He neither has a beginning nor an end. That means He always existed. Before all things, after all things, and when nothing exists, He will always exist. Very good. Now, the next thing that I want to deal with, and I want to wrap up right there, since Brother Alex gave me an extra 5 minutes, is what are some of the challenges that I'm going to hear? But Sheikhna, what about earthquakes? What about tsunamis? Right? I mean, that can't be organized. Well, hang on. Now we went, at the beginning of this lecture, we proved that the Creator exists, right? And we proved that this system is an organized system. That's one. Two, we proved that Allah is unlimited, which means that He is indeficient, correct? That He is all perfect, which means that He is all-knowing, all-wise, correct? That He is the ultimate organizer. So if there's a tsunami, or there's an earthquake somewhere on the earth, is that not part of that system of organization? What did you say? Yes, something. The tsunami happening there, the tornado happening there, the hurricane happening somewhere else. What is the wisdom behind it is the question that I should ask. Not whether is it wise for that to happen. Why? Because I already proved that Allah, everything He does has wisdom, right? Because He is all perfect, He is all wise. Because He is all wise, then He is all purposeful. He does not do anything without a purpose. Therefore, that tsunami, that earthquake had a purpose. Now, what was the purpose? Modern science has proven to us that if an earthquake doesn't occur in a specific area of the earth, then what will happen is the buildup of pressure within the earth will actually cause catastrophic and calamic events in other areas and bigger portions of the earth. This is what modern science says. Notice so far, we have not used the word Allah. We've only used our intellects. Now what I want you to do, this is your homework. Your homework is, I want you to think of every single possible challenge to the proofs that I give. And then when I see you next, I want you to approach me with those challenges. Because we need to answer whatever challenges are posed. And those of you who took notes, please help those who didn't take notes. Those of you who aren't sure of the notes that they took, please approach me so that I can help you understand. Because it's going to be your role to teach someone else later on. But you have to make sure that you perfected the proofs. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Oh Allah, we ask you that you elevate our status to our intellects, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we ask you that you brighten our hearts so that they may guide us, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, I ask you that you make our hearts full of light through the decisions that we make, Ya Allah. Allow us to choose you. Allow us to make our decisions based on the fact that we know that not only do you exist, but you are the unlimited, all-purposeful creator. And if that's the case, then I know that you created me with purpose. Oh Allah, let me reach my purpose, Ya Arham. Oh Allah, guide me to the right path, Ya Rabbal Alamin. The path of righteousness, Ya Arham. And make me always be of those who is shy to be disobedient to you, O Allah. And let me always ask guidance from you, O Allah. And Allah, please always place in my way those who will rightfully guide me to the straight path, Ya Arhamar Rahimin. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. وصل يا رب على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.